Welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 2018. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
I'm Pawel.
Well, lads, it's been 50 years of podcasting.
50 years.
2015 we started, and a lot has changed in that time. The first thing, we finally finished our new theme tune.
Hey!
47 years in the making, but I think it was definitely worth the wait.
Sorry it took so long.
Yeah, he's not.
I'm glad you stuck with the old one for as long as you did.
Well, we had very little choice. The complaints kept coming in, but you know, you get used to it after
Sooner
a
or
while.
later, you just don't care.
I enjoyed some of those.
After a while, these things just wash over.
In those 50 years, though, I mean, a lot has changed. Podcasting's gone underground. We're now hiding from the corporations that run the world. But thankfully, we haven't been found, because Pawel, our old friend here, is now mostly robot. And the electromagnetic interference that he gives off is hidden as well.
Yeah. It's funny though, you would think after 47 years we might have got a few new microphones, but no, start recording with the same
Technology's limited on the underground. That said, I do enjoy the cave techno raves.
It's important. Yes, definitely high tech, low life. I think our mics are high life, low tech.
So Pawel, are you finally happy now? Living in the cyberpunk future that you've always dreamed of, that you used to tell us of so many times over the past 50 years that we've been doing this podcast. You must be delighted.
See, look, I should be, yes, but just look around. I mean, honestly, Jesus, it's not what it was supposed to be. I mean, there's no like haircuts, for example, and those beards. You know, it was never meant to be. I can't take it.
So not cyberpunk enough.
Cyberpunk is mostly haircuts, you know. Cyberpunk's supposed to be shoulder pads, man.
You do have a point there, Pawel. I mean, in the 1980s, we were promised green Mohicans and leather biker jackets, and we don't see a lot of those anymore.
No, we don't, and I don't really understand it. As we were approaching the 30s, at least, I honestly expected some sort of comeback, and then by 50s, I've tried myself, didn't really cut it, but as much as I like to think about myself as a trendsetter, I still don't see them around. So, and I don't think without mohawks, it's just without them, it's not it.
I mean, do you ever really see anybody jacking in these days? It's certainly not with the panache that we were told they were going to.
There is some jacking around, but...
Yeah, well, you would know about that, Pawel.
Well, again, that happens at the techno raves. That's
yeah.
Techno's on its 5th revival.
It's
pretty good.
It's more cyber but less punk, and so you know it's just the equilibrium is not there. You know, there's.
Pawel, will you ever be happy with the future?
The future is definitely something to look forward to now that we're surrounded by all this shite. But because it's obviously we have no choice, but. Am I happy with the current version of Cyberpunk? Am I really? I don't feel it, honestly. I mean, it's a letdown.
Well,
I was promised at least some form of corporate warfare, and not this. This is lame. What we're seeing out there with people being bought over and all of us just slaving around. And I think, Chris, when was the last time you were actually delivering letters for your corporation?
I think the last letter I delivered was in 2024.
There you go. Yeah.
It's all been little blobs of data since then that I've been delivering.
Exactly. So My point is, if it was a proper evil corporation, you would be, better enslaved. And I'm actually disappointed that we've even managed to reach the underground.
Well, Pavel, perhaps you should hold off on that disappointment until we reach the fabled year of 2077.
Yeah, because maybe Cyberpunk 2077 will actually come out by then and show us how it should be done.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath.
Well, yeah.
So this episode is going to be a bit different. As you just heard, we've been reminiscing a little there, so we're going to fill the episode with more reminiscences. We're going to talk about our memories of the last 50 years with a couple of our favourite games of all time. We're going to do some flashbacks to the reviews of those, just so we can all enjoy them again.
I think we should also do a retro episode, which I'm particularly good at, so that I can get to play Half-Life 1, because I've never had the pleasure.
But I'm sure with your robotic reflexes, you could play that in about 30 seconds these days.
Yeah, I just need to install some emulators in me.
And also, obviously, you could just look at your archive of YouTube videos of people playing Half-Life 1 that you carry around with you at all times.
No, it's just cats, man.
As YouTube is now mostly cats, isn't it?
YouTube, that's just that, essentially, yeah. Which is the way it was supposed to be. I mean, we knew it was coming, and at some point it's just a matter of storage. At some point you have to start eliminating other stuff.
Okay, boys. So I'm going to open it to the floor. Let's hear some of your memories of the past 50 years.
Well, for me, it would have to be the year when we all fucked off, and the podcast was just Pawel talking about RPGs.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
I remember it quite clearly as well.
That would have been an interesting year for our listeners.
Most of us have only been able to listen to small snippets of those episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
The sad thing was, I don't think anyone really noticed.
No.
I wish we brought back those rankings that we used in the past, because I'm sure that my episodes were in fact absolutely masterful.
Do we have a wee clip of this that we can play, I believe?
Yeah.
Press play on Pawel, if you could just do the honours.
Yeah, Pawel, if you want to just quickly go through your archives there and play the clip.
I shall play them. I'll try and compile them a bit. Yes.
Press the one on the tape deck on your frontispiece. But don't press the red button as well.
Stop touching my buttons, man. Oh. Hello and welcome to the large and unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 1635. My name's Pawel. This is going to be an RPG episode, which I think is great, and we will continue the review of the 11th edition of the Legend of the Six Rings RPG, which Swordsmaster Miyamoto Musashi and the Master Ring forged in secret in the fires of Mount Doom to rule all the others, to find them, to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. This metaphysical marriage is mostly Ask a Stranger mechanic, which is a new and fairly popular mechanic in RPGs, which essentially measures the player's dedication and intimidation and persuasion skills, as well as their ability to storytell. The Ura, which is the ultra-realistic record of activities, comparing tasks at hand with randomly selected record of similar activities conducted by real people of appropriate relevant skill level, and the amount of character creation points they get before they embark on their RPG sentence. I just think that depending on prison block GM jurisdiction, the re-education campaign may contain overly large discrepancies. RPGismo 4, which is the newest sensory feedback emulator for self-game mastering, a very popular form of entertainment for all of us that lack trust or have sensitivity by a number of post-amnesian bugs and severe lag in rebuilding the memories displaced during the session. It also seems to be aiming a little bit too leftwards on the Freud-Gale-Man scale. Amber Shallows is a fantastic new expansion in the Blue Planet bookline, and it introduces the meta community of genetically enhanced and rather heavily bio-augmented sea cucumbers. Their tidal cult practices, consensus forums you see nowadays, seem to be dominated by the classic Mason punk tropes and a slightly more retrospective brick dark, but as much as they may differ from each other, the basic premise is the same. Instead of rolling a character, which forms the basis of a more traditional RPG.
Pawel, what exactly were you talking about there?
Well, that was obviously quality RPG chat. Finally, and by chat I always mean chatting to our listeners.
Did you do that for an entire year?
Well, I mean, it's not my fault that you weren't there. I mean, fair enough, it took me a while to realise that you weren't, but still, I mean, can I please have another few months of that?
I feel like I know less than I did 30 seconds ago.
Well, it's a complex topic, yes, and it's got many layers and a lot of lore that has to be touched upon, and fair enough, I might need some more time to delve into this, and I'm more than happy to.
Well, if we all disappear from the podcast again, then you might get your opportunity. Maybe in another 50 years.
Where exactly did we all go?
I mean, I was under the impression I was still doing the podcast.
Oh yeah, we found you in the kitchen, didn't we?
I did an entire year's worth of subsets about butter.
Dave?
Well, I remember it well because that was the year I was mysteriously invited to a fishing tournament on a Caribbean island. And it was...
Was this by Russians by any chance?
I think it may have been. I mean, a letter was delivered by a courier.
They tend to do that, don't they? Yeah.
It was most unexpected, given that I have no actual experience of fishing at all in real life. But yeah, I mean, I did pretty well. I came second. It turns out fishing's a piece of piss. It was a lot easier than it was in Russian fishing too.
Are you still radioactive after that?
There was no radioactivity involved. This was the thing. I mean, I didn't have to repair my rod after I'd caught 5 different fish. Eating was simple enough. I just took a packed lunch with me. I didn't. Honestly, it's way easier than they like to make out.
Sounds like a fantastic trip. So where did you go then?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you, old man.
I don't like to talk about that year. That was a dark year for me. You do realise that I was playing, version... I can't even remember which version of 7 Days to Die. It's still not had its full release yet. I'd been playing it too much, and they found me having built a fort in the middle of a golf course, trying to hide from zombies. I don't know where I got the rebar frames from, but there was plenty of sand in the golf course, so I had made quite a lot of blocks.
Nothing like a good piece of crafting.
Hold myself up. I mean, after a 400-day siege, they managed to talk me down.
A lot of the people died that tried to get you out of there. It was only when someone came along, they had the bright idea of just having a name above their head that you kind of accepted them as another player.
That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was suspicious of them. Other players in that game, you don't know whether they're friend or foe.
But you're not just going to out and out murder them like you might a zombie.
But they were naked, so I just assumed they were a new player. So I thought it would be safe. So yeah, I came back. I rescued Euan from the kitchen. Dave walked in the door a day later, smelling of fish. And Pawel, you'd just been sitting here the whole time.
Which was a natural point of re-entry, because I was just coming up with a good moment for you to maybe ask a few questions which you still failed to ask correctly. There's only a bit of... It's just, you have to ask questions the right way, because otherwise I'm just going to keep talking about RPG the proper way.
Well, I guess the thing I want to know is, in Sea Cucumber Society, is like, are there any decisions that are worth making? What sort of stats do you want to take in sea cucumber hell?
No, the sea cucumber, you fail to understand, it's all about consensus, underwater consensus, balance.
Oh.
You can't, you don't just do your stats.
So charisma's a dump stat, you're telling me?
You can't dump things in it. Sea cucumbers tend to dump a lot of stuff in general, but you don't just create your character, you create your entire relationship with the cucumbers around as well.
Right, that's it. I'm going back to the golf course.
Yeah, there's a reason we're reminiscing about the year Pawel was the only person on the podcast. So,
Good times.
Euan.
Well, a personal favourite memory of mine was a few years ago when I got to review the what was billed as the Ultimate Mass Effect box set. I enjoyed it very much. I mean, it was basically just a remastered version of Andromeda with an added Battle Royale multiplayer. But it was definitely my game of the century.
Oh, it wasn't. You were
Well-
only trying to trigger me.
Strangely, we have a clip of that. Pawel, press play on your frontispiece, I believe it's called.
Oh.
So, Euan, I believe that you've been playing the Ultimate Edition of a popular video game.
But this for me is the definitive edition of Mass Effect. The interesting thing is that they've actually left out the first 3 games, and it's no loss. It really isn't. And particularly Mass Effect 2 is no loss to the entire thing.
That's
but
interesting.
It's really streamlined the whole operation, and the world building is excellent. I love the character designs. I actually went back. You can toggle. So you can get the original character designs when the game was first released before they patched it. And that's what you really want to see. The Angara are probably the best race that have been introduced to the game at any point. Really, they're these squid people who live in ice.
Ow!
That's the best thing you could possibly.
I can't take it anymore.
The car that you drive around in. That's been vastly improved.
What's the car even named, man?
I mean, who cares? It's just great. I mean, nobody really gets that into the Mass Effect game. Nobody actually cares about them, but they
what is
enjoy
even Mass
playing.
Effect to you, man? It's like you treading on my life.
The greatest thing was that they just cut out all of that stuff, because really Andromeda's where the story's going, so why would you care where it's been?
It's a bloody
This
sidetrack.
is why it's important to...
What even is Mass Effect? What's the title from?
Mass Effect Andromeda.
No, not bloody Andromeda.
Mass Effect Ultimate Edition #Andromeda is the edition that we're going to be.
Oh, Pawel, you really didn't like him talking about that, did you?
Even just the notion of it.
I've sort of recovered by now, but I would prefer if we never spoke about it again or played this. But in fact, I'm gonna just delete it from my databank. So about that.
Sorry,
stand
I've
by what I
encrypted
said.
those. You're not allowed to do that.
I hate it when people encrypt stuff in me.
Insert your own joke here, people. Euan, would you say that's your favourite memory?
Absolutely, yeah. It was a pleasurable experience, and I enjoyed informing our listeners about the quality of the game.
Yeah. I don't even remember it happening, but I certainly enjoyed listening to it.
I like that it makes Pawel short out now and again. Just the thought of it.
It's the only thing that does, strangely. Okay, let's move on. Pawel,
Hello.
it's time to get your revenge here, possibly. What is your big memory of the past 50 years?
Yes, I do like to think that there was this one moment when all the other crap we've been talking about for years has just advanced far enough to just become Dynasty Warriors ultimate, essentially collection of any trope, any game,
Yes.
any franchise you can think of, all the characters in it.
I remember this. This was you may not remember. Pawel's referring to that one year where the only game you could buy was Dynasty Warriors.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. That was when everybody had got really sick and tired of complex RPGs and survival games and stuff, that, Dynasty Warriors just had a massive resurgence, and it was the only thing you could buy.
Which is still fine, because I was the one reviewing it, and every beloved character you can think of was already moosing around in Dynasty Warriors. Every story you can conceive was essentially part of your next band of warriors running against you. They were just properly named and stuff. So it was watered down, but at least everything was in it. Finally, there wasn't anything you could still ask for in video games anymore. It's like a holy grail of games.
I found it started to become a bit of an irritation towards the end of the year, and you'd do things like, you'd download like the Lothian bus app to find out the times, and you had to like run through a series of the old like feudalistic Chinese battles just to find out what time your bus time was.
I know, yeah, that's a bit.
I think
of
the
a
rot
bummer,
had set in by that point.
When even presenting your ticket to the bus driver is a QTA event, that's difficult, yeah. But it's fine. I think it was worth it. But the beauty of Dynasty Warriors being there, what it essentially ascended to become, is that it's like a custodian. It preserves the franchises and in fact genres that aren't there anymore. Because I quite like to think that deep in everybody's memory banks there are point and click games and other beloved genres like this. If you can now have a point and click in Dynasty Warriors, which is obviously a little bit more button mashy but still point and clicky if you think about it, then we're not losing this particular genre. It's important, especially nowadays that everything is getting rather similarish, that point and click still lives on.
And it's good to teach people the benefits of area control.
Dynasty Warriors is not a point and click game.
Of course it is. You just point at your enemies and you click at them multiply until they dispatched off.
I think Pavel's
I think Pawel, that year that you're talking about, that wasn't Dynasty Warriors.
Well, it was at least licensed.
All I'll say about Dynasty Warriors, that year when all you could play was Dynasty Warriors, I was in my happy place. I'd reverted to...
Was it the golf course?
That might have been the same year, I'm not sure. But I had reverted to a childlike state. Just running around, KOing several hundred Chinese warriors every 15 minutes. It was good times, and it was exactly the holiday that we all needed from tedious video games at that point.
I have to agree, and I think it's great now that everyone has a shrine to Lu Bu in their residence. It's obviously compulsory.
Yes.
But I still think it's a good thing, and it should be compulsory.
I'm just waiting to level up to Lu Bu eventually. I'm still not there.
Well, you've heard some of our memories there. Some of our favourite ones. Some just utterly bizarre. But we're going to move on to going back in time to when Mage Quest. We finally got round to reviewing it.
Finally reviewed Mage Quest.
A game that seemed to defy time itself.
Indeed.
It seemed like that game had always existed.
Well, I think that when we played it, I mean, we might have said we were going to review it at a specific time, but this time that we're going to play, this is when we ended up reviewing it.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much preordained the minute we played Mage Quest. It does things to time and space that you can't really explain.
Yes, and I think that'll come across when you have a listen to what we had to say about it.
Yep, so let's play that clip now. Take it away, Pawel.
Oh!
Okay, well, for the past few decades, we have mentioned many times the board game Mage Quest, and we thought, it's probably about time that we gave this game a review. I'm not entirely sure when this game even came out, and it feels like it's always existed.
It's a ubiquitous classic. Really.
It is really. So we have been involved in Mage Quest a few times now, because I think being involved in it is more accurate than saying that you played the game.
It's certainly, yeah. You feel like you have Mage Quested.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that it's come to formal recognition amongst the board gaming public.
Well, yeah, it has occupied most of the top 10 spots in Board Game Geek for the past, however long I can remember now.
It's amazing that people have managed to vote it into all top 10 spots as
yeah,
well.
It's strange, but somehow they've done it. Yeah. So there we go. So who wants to kick us off on Mage Quest then?
Yeah, well,
give us an overview.
The thing with Mage Quest is Mage Quest is not so much a game as it is a powerful metaphor for the human condition, and in it kind of achieves this through a clever combination of worker placement, set collection, deck building, hand management, hidden movement, simultaneous action selection, pick up and deliver, engine building, area control, action point allowance, and a number of other mechanics that are unique to the game itself.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it managed to do this, and the rulebook is only 5 pages long. I mean, it's quite impressive, but that's just one of the many facets that makes it such an interesting game. I mean, and the sad thing is that a lot of people, there are some negative reviews for this game, despite it being so popular now. And I think the problem with it is a lot of people just don't get past the initial stages. Like when when it starts, you have to build the tower, obviously, being Mage Quest.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is an actual tower that you need to build.
I mean, I think the decision to put in, the painted manufactured miniatures, but then have trees that the game forces you to hand paint before you ever play it, I think is a little bit of a sticking point for some people. I always thought it was a bit strange myself, but I enjoyed painting the trees, and it feels like part of the game.
It does indeed. And those trees are they're interesting things because they actually grow.
Yeah, that's. I mean, at first I was disturbed, and then pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to do all this just before you create your character.
Well, this is very true. You have to create your mage.
Yes, well, obviously, being Mage Quest.
Sorry, am I being a bit too obvious here?
you can't quest until you mage. I mean, you have to mage first before you quest.
This is very true.
I mean, those are the two sort of opposing factors in the game. Is it's you're setting off your maginess versus the questing, and you have to balance those two across the period of several years that it takes to play this game.
Yeah.
And it's very intimidating, obviously, but that time just flies by, I found, when we played it.
It really does. Time really does fly by when you play it.
It was difficult to tell how long we were playing it for.
Aye.
I mean, one thing I want to take you up on is, obviously, to me, I looked at the mechanic as it's a very unique deck destroying mechanic that they've introduced in the game, where you start with your most powerful hand, and as you go on, you have to actually remove cards from the game and make it more difficult for yourself. And in fact, occasionally you have to put cards into your hand that actively work against you. I mean, it's daunting for the inexperienced player, but highly rewarding if you can get your head around it.
Yeah. I think this kind of signifies your mage losing control of reality.
Well, yeah. I mean, the more you quest, the less you become, the less magey you are, as they've explained. And I think that they've worked that organically into the game. You lose your magehood.
You kind of do, but also your humanity as well. You know,
magehood is implied humanity in the Mage Quest world or universe. I think we should probably say.
Now, Pawel, this was a rare instance where you actually joined in a game of this, and you felt that there were some strong role-playing things coming through here. I
obviously, with Mage Quest being essentially the essence of all creativity of this kind, you would expect some solid philosophy behind the game as such, and you can see it in the title itself, because you've got your maging element and you've got your questing element, and depending on how you balance those two, you find yourself either pursuing plot lines or character arcs. There's a beautiful dynamic between the two, and I've realized, in fact, even though I personally thought I never ever played it with you, so I've realized after the first few times that I've always been playing it, and I can't remember whether this was in fact one of my first memories ever or not, maging or questing, one of those. Very fond memories, very confusing. I'm looking forward to this eventually looping through. At the moment the loop is not closed yet. I'm still searching my way through, just in between of. It's very vague and confusing.
I mean, we should probably point out that we all think we're still playing Mage Quest.
I don't think it ever ended.
Right.
But I can't remember when it started either.
That's a bit worrying.
It is a bit worrying. In fact, for my memories of it, when I read that 5-page rulebook, when I finally closed the rulebook, I woke up.
Did you did you read the passage in the rulebook that was set in like a small sort of frontier town, and you have to rescue a woman from people accusing her of witchcraft?
I don't think I did. Perhaps that was unique to your rulebook, Euan.
Oh, perhaps. I forgot I had a 5-page rulebook as well. I was just handed it.
It was definitely a 5-page rulebook, but I'm sure I read more pages than that, actually. Well, one of the other things that kind of put me up, made me feel a bit strange about this game was the 5-sided cube dice were just utterly weird.
They work better than expected. I mean, 5 is a prime number. Whatever result you get is always... you can't argue with a 5. face and
Well, you
die.
certainly can't argue with a 5, no.
I remember the times when we were all angry at dice mechanics, but a 5-sided dice just resolved
I mean,
it.
don't get me wrong, I never got angry about the dice rolling in this game. In fact, I felt serene. Almost enlightened every time I rolled.
I think particularly when you're physically touching a 5-sided cube, it becomes your body has to kind of cope in some way, and I think that sort of blissed out state is part of it. That's just a natural part of the game. I wouldn't worry about it. Just enjoy Mage Quest.
I was never worried about it, to be honest. It was a bit strange at first.
Yeah.
I think it was, like I say, it was a little bit off-putting at first, but once that calmness set in, I was fine. I was totally fine with it. In fact, I think I still have the dice on me. That's strange. I don't remember putting those in my pocket.
Yeah, that just shows the power of Mage Quest. I'm not sure whether we can even say power. It's transcendence is a good word here. It's just Mage Quest takes over what you thought, in fact, was your life. Whereas the dice, they represent just a higher order that surrounds you as such and just organizes your thoughts and. In a way, goals, I imagine. I always thought that I strive for something in life until I've achieved
until you played Mage Quest.
Maybe fourth part of the rule book, and suddenly you realise that it was all about it. Game Quest as such.
Well, this is the power of the game. I mean, it takes these relatively simple game mechanics that we've talked about and takes you on this journey of self-discovery. I mean, you start out as a young stripling, make your character creation, and then a couple of months later, you experience the emotional loss that is important in forming you as a person and sets you out on your journey. You have the typical, you encounter the conflict between yourself and society, and eventually either society changes or much more likely you are changed by it. And it's amazing how they express that. With the worker placement, I mean, I didn't really think it was possible, but
no, not at all.
It's it's really cool, and that's why it's so difficult to get a copy of this game, because it's not that people don't want to give up their copies. It's more that they're really just afraid to give them away to anyone else, because that's a big thing. I mean, to play Mage Quest is to be changed by it in an irreparable manner. And it's a big responsibility to pass that on to someone else.
That's very true.
I think some people do start to feel like they would be giving away a part of their own lives by giving away their copy of Mage Quest, or even allowing it to leave their immediate vicinity.
I mean, I'm not even sure how we got our copy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that once the Kickstarter finished, it just appeared.
Yeah.
It was just here. In fact, I've talked to people who didn't even take part in the Kickstarter, and they had it as well.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. The more I think about Mage Quest, the more I think about it, the more confused I get.
I mean, what I like to think of Mage Quest is, I mean, if you can imagine inside your own mind, just the universe arrayed in front of you with everything that you could possibly want, but there's like a black spot where you can't go. That's Mage Quest, basically.
Yeah, it's like near the centre of the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But you just can't put your finger on it.
So whose turn is it?
Should we roll a dice? Find out.
I think.
Have you got one of them?
Sure.
Have you got one of them 5-sided cube dice on you?
Yeah, yeah. It must be me.
Oh.
But how long has it been your turn?
Roll away.
Well, I will roll.
And what are you gonna do?
Well, I'm going to use my action points here, I think. I'm going to try and move closer to the black spot.
Right.
When did we start playing?
I think we should look for the... this is going to sound a bit self-serving, but we should probably look for the first player token and check.
That's a good point, actually. Was there a first player
I
token?
don't think it actually comes with a first player token.
Oh, no.
Unless we are all first players.
But no, well, the thing is, now that I've looked for the first player token, there is one.
Oh.
It's got my name on it. That's really weird.
I mean, is it embossed, or is it kind of like scratched into it?
I think it's hard to describe. I mean, I would say that it's more like it's always been there. I don't know what
a
material
natural
it's made of.
formation.
In fact, I'm not even sure I recognise these shapes. They're not physically possible.
Well, there might come a time that yours will start looking vaguely similar to something you understand, but this you will know then that you've achieved a higher tier. Yeah, it's happened to me last Wednesday. It was amazing. It was mostly in a bathroom, but also next to it, and the token was there. I thought for a moment, but then I've realised I was there, and I don't even need a mirror anymore. Not that I needed it in the past, but right now it's just Mage Quest.
Well, now you can turn your eyes directly back on yourself
I'm
through the power of Mage Quest.
I'm first tokening.
Okay, I think we need to put the lid on this game.
I think
Can you, though?
it might be a good idea.
We can only try.
Well, we'll find out.
I don't think you can, honestly.
So that's Mage Quest. That's by Unnecessary Games. Designed by Chris Hanratty, Euan, Glasgow.
There is no lid.
Well, I don't think there's much more you can say about that.
Nope.
Strangely, the only other board game that had that level of power was Carcassonne. Do you guys remember when it just became such a massive thing that the city of Carcassonne became the board game? Do you remember the news stories at that time?
I remember the civil war in France over which expansions were acceptable.
Well, yeah, it was all very bizarre. But and if you walked into the city of Carcassonne itself, things got really strange.
I know it was very difficult during that period to tell the difference between the casualties and people who were just claiming a field.
Exactly. Lots of people just standing in roads.
On tops of buildings.
On tops of buildings. And, there was somebody on top of a tower that somehow one piece of the land next to him was completely missing.
Yeah, I did notice a lot of very small castles popping up around that time. It changed the landscape.
It did. I'm never going back there again.
No, it's all a bit daft.
Yeah, but sometimes I wonder if were we ever there really? Because do you guys remember that year when we were all stuck in VR?
Oh God, I've tried to forget about this.
Don't make me play that. That's some bad memories, man. I've got trauma.
Pawel, maybe we can figure this out. Play the clip.
Oh!
What the fuck is going on?
Look, how many helmets did you put on? Because I've definitely put on at least 3.
I think I've put on more than that.
And how many have you taken off?
I've actually lost count. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I'm pretty sure I put on 3.
Hi guys, I just got here. I just put on a helmet and where are you? Where are we?
Wait, I can hear you.
No, are we back?
Wait, Euan, try putting on another helmet. I might be able to see you.
I can't see one. All right, wait, I found one. Okay,
Right.
I'll put it on.
No, that's not you. No, I don't know who that is. Put on another one.
Can I take this one off first? I'm not entirely sure where this has gone. I don't like it.
I would advise against it, actually.
Okay, I'll try and find another one. I'm gonna. Have to
I need you to count how many helmets you're putting on until you find me.
Well, that's 3 so far. I'll try another.
Wait. Which helmets are you putting on? Because there was multiple helmets.
I mean, I think that one. Well, that one was a PlayStation one, as far as I know.
Right, but guys, are we in the one where we're doing the jazz podcast?
No, I
Because
think
that's the one I'm in, I think.
no, I think this is the farming podcast I'm in.
Oh, well, I took that one off.
Oh God! Well,
I
think I may have
find it
put on a
now.
couple more after that.
It's not in this room.
Right.
Oh,
I'm away back to the kitchen.
Well, I don't think that cleared anything up. I'm still not sure which reality I'm in.
I think at this point it doesn't really matter.
Nah, I don't think so.
As long as you're listening to a podcast, you're probably all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've put in so much preparation for this podcast. I'm basically unwilling to try and take my helmet off.
Fair enough. I like your dedication. Euan, do you want to share a memory so we can quickly move off of this topic?
Well, given that we've only just a few weeks ago finished our Gloomhaven campaign, it would be nice to get around to playing Isaac Childress' follow-up. Unfortunately, he had to actually annex a small island nation to do that, and the entire population of Burkina Faso have been relocated to Swindon, I believe, so that he could put his game in there. Now, some people consider that a little bit elitist, but yet the same people all still back the Kickstarter for him to send a probe over to Jupiter to maybe see about putting his next game on one of the moons.
He's some boy.
Well, yeah, no, he works hard, but I think he has the ear of the corporations. I'm a bit concerned.
I think he's just working independently. Nobody's willing to take him on is the problem.
Yeah.
He creates such massive things that they're terrifying.
Well, no one can actually play them.
At this point, he's too big to fail.
True. Very true. Oh, I just remembered something, actually. Pawel,
Hello.
do you remember that time that I refused to let you talk about RPGs?
Oh!
Okay, well, that's the end of this episode.
No, wait, it's not. It's not, because you've promised me an RPG section.
Pawel, we're totally out of time, man.
No, come on, it's just 10 minutes. Plus, I mean...
It's never 10 minutes for you.
Okay, well, maybe 25, but, it's not that much. Plus, we've promised. I mean, the listeners want to hear about RPG.
Look,
and
Pawel, no, I've had enough of this, okay? We cannot keep doing this.
Come on, it's been 56 episodes. I've counted
Pawel,
without RPGs.
No,
listen, it's just 35 minutes, honestly. I mean, it's you won't even notice it.
35. We don't have 35 minutes.
No,
we need to finish the episode, Pawel.
maybe
People don't
40.
want to hear this.
Let's say 40. 40 minutes
No.
for RPG chat. It's
No.
not much. I'm telling you, honestly.
Pawel,
If I don't take it out of my system now, it's...
calm down.
No, listen. We have to talk about RPGs.
Pawel,
there's
you
no
know what
other-
happens when you get angry?
This
Pawel,
is the
stop
only
it.
way. RPGs, it has to be talked about.
I have to put my foot down. I have to say no.
What do you mean? I mean, this. You're not the king of me. I'm gonna talk about
Pawel.
RPGs.
Pawel,
No, this is now an RPG podcast. I'm telling you.
stop it.
No, I'm talking about RPG. Oh God.
I lost many limbs that day. Okay, then, let's move on, Pawel. You're always the brunt of the joke, so we're going to let you introduce our big video game review from yesteryear.
And it was a big one, wasn't it, Pawel?
It's the biggest one. It's if it wasn't within Dynasty Warriors, it would be the biggest. Yeah, Shenmue 4, fantastic game. I remember the review. It was a good few years ago, but it's still fresh in my data banks. I keep it close to heart, really.
It's not like here.
Is your databank's literally close to your heart?
Not only, I've got memories in other sections of the organism.
Oh, so you've made a choice to keep the Shenmue part close to your heart. That's beautiful, Pawel. That's very beautiful.
That's the only way I could have done it. Yep.
Okay, well, let's listen to a review of Shenmue 4. Play the clip.
Oh.
Okay, so we're finally going to talk about Shenmue 4, boys.
This has been a long time coming.
It's finally been released. It's been 18 years since the release of Shenmue 3, which was widely panned by critics and has been declared non-canonical after people were extremely disappointed with Shenmue 3. The ending of it was utterly bizarre. When it turned out that Fuku-san was actually Lan Di, and it was him all along. It's him all along that did all this to Ryo's father.
Yep.
See, I actually quite liked that twist. I thought that they actually fulfilled Fuku-san's inner hidden, character strengths as such, and I'm quite disappointed that we're now told that this is not canon anymore.
Oh, but Fuku-san was just deceiving everyone with his, nervous disposition. It was all just an act.
And you know what? I think that Ryo fully deserves to be just what's the word? Blind smocked by it. Is that a word like this? I'm sure there's a word like this. No, there isn't.
Blind smocked?
Yes.
I've never even heard of that word.
But that's exactly what Fuku-san does it.
I'm accepting this as a word.
I think, this era, it definitely needs to be accepted into the lexicon.
There you go. See.
But why did you think Fuku-san was so important? I mean, I wasn't keen on his on the whole thing where the mirrors turned out to be just something he made as a kid out of paper mache. You'd think someone would have noticed at that point.
You're not supposed to even look at those mirrors.
I mean, they're not actually mirrors. They're just, I can't see my reflection in them.
No.
I'm pretty sure this is just a failed translation.
Well, they're old school Japanese mirrors, which are just they're just bits of metal, basically.
But Pavel, they want you to believe that it's a failed translation, but actually it's part of the plot.
I suppose, because if you think about the moment when you had just English or dubbing, and then you suddenly had Japanese, and you started translating it as every proper Shenmue fan should have, and you realized the discrepancies, they were huge. I mean, my world was turned upside down.
I mean, Shenmue, the problem, I mean, Shenmue was never a series where fan service was important. But I do think people were slightly left down by the lack of sailors in Shenmue 3.
Yeah, but that was the main thing. I mean, forget that whole thing about Fuku-san. The lack of sailors
really let it down.
I felt that.
Yeah.
I really felt that.
But, I mean, that was largely due to it being set in a town in Arizona.
Well, that's true.
That really kind of didn't flow, I felt.
No, it wasn't really explained at all
Arizona
how he got
doesn't
there.
flow.
No.
He just started wandering around. And the problem is, you're in a town in Arizona, there's no capsule machines. There's not many vending machines. It diminishes the game massively.
Yeah, no Chohan,
That's it.
no...
There were still
discovered-
cuties.
Still too young to drink.
Yeah.
So...
I discovered a glitch in the game, though, where you can walk off the level and it brings you to a sailor's bar in the middle of the desert, but it's just full of dead sailors.
Oh.
I don't know what it was all about.
Maybe it was in
I'm
development.
assuming they were going to incorporate it into the game and they decided to push it off to the side and you weren't supposed to see this.
They just couldn't get rid of the code was the problem.
But Rio had seen a lot of sailors that day, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people felt this way about the game, and that's obviously why, when it came to Shenmue 4, they chose to set it on a cruise liner.
Yeah.
Staffed entirely by sailors.
Well, wherever Landy is, he must be there. Yes, so it makes your mission slightly easier.
No spoilers.
And Landy is definitely not Fuku-san, and it turns out that Shenmue 3 was all just a fever dream that Fuku-san had.
Well, it's good that they can hand wave that away, and it feels like Shenmue 3 did feel like a fever dream.
It really did
to most of us playing it. A lot of people persevered. Most of us kind of just were like, we threw our consoles away in disgust.
Well, I tried to throw the Dreamcast away, but it just bounced and hit me in the head.
Came straight back into the house.
Came
Good
back
for
through
you.
the window.
And the game was still playing.
It was fine. It was fine.
Good old Dreamcast.
Okay, so Shenmue 4 then.
Yu Suzuki's prime time. Well done there.
I'm glad that the whole thing is set on a cruise liner.
I mean, I love
it
the
was
bit.
about time.
I love the bit where the game just starts and Rio wakes up in the Lido, basically, with a non-alcoholic flirtini. And you just get up, look at your watch, and off you go. I mean, I was going to say the world is yours, but it is just a boat, obviously. But there is so much to see on this boat.
Well, I mean, it's essentially they've taken the Japan simulator of the first game and somehow put that on a cruise ship. I mean, I know the town in Shenmue wasn't that big, but it's interesting the way they've managed to incorporate those elements. I mean, there's a 7-Eleven. They've actually been able to license. There's no longer the tomato store because they've actually been able to license real convenience stores. So there's a 7-Eleven, a Lawson's, and there's even a Circle K. And you can go between them. You can go and get your printing done.
Yeah.
You can try and withdraw money.
Yes.
It's almost impossible because there's never a cash machine. There's maybe like one cash machine, and it's in a section that's only ever sort of open for about 2 hours of the day, which in Shenmue time is not a long time.
Yeah, I'm just happy that Tomu-san, the hot dog guy, was still there. That was I was really looking forward to.
That's where
meeting
he
him
ended up after he left Shenmue. Apparently,
I mean, I was really surprised to find out he was the captain, though. I mean,
he deserved it.
I
after
wasn't
all this
surprised
time.
at
It
all.
made a certain amount of sense for his character. I think they left at a point where he could have gone anywhere, but when you looked at him, you're like, that cruise ship captain is definitely high on the list.
He looked that way to me from the beginning. Yes, that dance just had it in it.
He still has an amazing accent as well.
Both accents and both dubbings are amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I just had a lot of fun working my passage across the Atlantic. It's not,
And so did Rio
it's not,
in the gentleman's showering
Dave.
section.
Family show.
There is a good showering mini game where you spend. you have to spend at least like 10 minutes in real time in the
properly
7-Eleven
away.
choosing a shower gel, the right kind of hair gel, and picking a manga.
And these all come from vending machines.
Oh, they all come from vending machines.
Yeah.
It's just easier that way. I think if they had you interacting with a real person, they'd start giving you the lottery tickets, and that would kind of diminish the other part of the game, which is buying lottery tickets and going to pachinko machines.
I'm really glad that they've kept that in Shenmue. Shenmue 4. I mean, because in Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, that was pretty much how you spent 90% of your time anyway.
Well, I mean, if you can't gamble,
Well,
what's the point?
if you can't bet it all on Chow,
Oh, yeah. And that is, again, that's been kept consistent in Shenmue 4. In fact, I think they've like changed the odds somehow. They've somehow weighted the dice so you're actually more likely to get Chow, which I don't even know how you do digitally. But there is a higher Chow percentage chance now, and you can basically bankrupt the cruise ship because you're out in the open sea. It doesn't matter.
I've heard a rumour though that you can bet the cruise ship, and if you lose, then the ship just disappears and you spend the rest of the game swimming through the sea.
Which is one of the endings, I
yeah.
understand.
Is that the good ending?
We shouldn't probably actually, because that's a bit of a spoiler, because there's multiple endings, but one of, obviously you're on a cruise ship, you have to expect the cruise ship to maybe not really make it there, especially with Tom-san being the captain. But I quite liked how he just pronounced the commands for the helmsman by just going Migi da Hidari da. This is a fantastic example of steering there.
I know, and I mean, there were a lot of similarities with Speed 2 cruise control, and some people might see that as a negative, but actually somehow they managed to turn it around and make it a lot better than the actual film was. I know, I mean, we should have said spoiler alert, but everybody knows now.
At this point, I think Shenmue 4 is probably the biggest game in the world. There isn't anybody that hasn't at least played, halfway through it at this point. So,
and after all the 16 trailers that we've all seen, I mean, I'm sure that most of these aren't even spoilers anymore. It's fine. I'm sure we're okay.
I'm really glad they're setting up for the Shenmue movie as well. They're going to condense all these stories into one film.
Yeah,
16 hours long.
Well, the idea being that you have to complete a quick time event to get into the cinema.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, if you can't complete that quick time event, then you don't deserve to be there.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, the problem is you just get another chance, but you have to go through the entire day before you can do it again. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a bit of a hassle.
You have to go and do some mundane stuff.
Yeah.
And sleep it off for a while, and then come back the next day. Yeah. Or you can save skulls. So, do you feel that like the Shenmue story ends here?
I don't think Shenmue's supposed to end.
Yeah, I think it's always been an eternal quest. I mean, we're still no further forward really on what's going on with Land D. Certainly, I didn't feel I was by the end of it.
No, I mean that scene in the boiler room really resolved nothing.
No, yeah. Well, he kind of like he sort of disappears, but then Fuku-san, kind of an apparition, appears and babbles a load of nonsense at you, and you kind of just that's roughly how the game ends.
You'd think it's nonsense, but it's Fuku-san. Whatever he says, it's always just it's full of this substance. You have to look underneath it, man. I
really think a slightly unsatisfying ending is really of Shenmue.
Yeah. I mean, the three choices you get at the end, you can choose. There's a big question asked of you at the end, and you can choose yes, no, or I know. And we all know what the correct answer is.
Well, yeah, it's the obvious choice.
Yeah. Well, Shenmue 4, I mean, it's like you say, it's the biggest game in the world, and deservedly so. I mean, there is nothing this game doesn't have.
Well, it is the only game I play now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that very much says it all.
Well, I can't wait for the Dynasty Warriors version to come, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope, Shenmue 4 really rounded out the story there, and they won't do any more ropey direct-to-video sequels like 5 and 6. Because I really didn't enjoy either of them.
I agree with you.
It was the completest in me that made me do it.
I agree. Let's just remember Shenmue for what it was. Shenmue 1 and 2.
Japan Simulator.
Okay, we'll have another few memories, I think, before we round up the show. Does anybody remember that time when Rainer Knizia became a sentient board game factory?
I certainly do. Pal, could you play the clip of the time when Rainer Knizia became a sentient board games factory?
I reluctantly will. Oh!
Have you guys heard that Rainer Knizia's finally become a sentient board games factory?
Yeah, I heard that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can't believe Rainier Knizia became a sentient board game factory.
Well, it happened.
It was always in the cards.
Sure did.
Pawel, you got any last memories to share with us?
Yeah, I wish I was sentient board game factory. But I'm not. Sorry. Well, I do remember that one time when we've actually opened the mailbag and there was something in it that was amazing.
It was amazing.
Let's hear the clip of that one, Pawel.
I'll play it with utmost pleasure. I hold it really close to my center of my chest. Oh!
Okay, if you want to email us, actually, now I think about it, has anybody checked the mailbag for a while?
What's a mailbag?
We actually do have a mailbag.
We do?
Yeah. Pawel, it's behind you.
Oh, it's that? Okay, fair enough. Let me try.
Open that up.
Peer into it, Pawel.
Yeah, have a look.
Alright. Dude, there's something in it.
Oh. Shit, what is it?
What even is that? Picture of the Queen on it. Weird.
That's the old Queen as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not touching that.
Well, yeah, get out.
No way.
Get out.
You
Dave,
take it.
Dave, get out.
Here.
Jesus, it is a queen.
Oh, yeah, that's... I think, if I remember from my old postman days, I think that's a letter.
No, a letter you get in your inbox, man.
Wow.
God, I haven't seen one of those since 1986.
I mean, I know we always ask people to write in, but
Oh my god, this is amazing. We got a letter.
I never thought anyone would actually do it.
What does it say? Do you remember you opened one of those?
I think the problem is we might not have retained the ability to read anything non-digital.
Well, we've got Pawel. I'm
Okay.
sure he can go into his data banks. Pawel, come on.
Slot
Pawel,
it
can
in,
you
man.
run it through you?
Yeah, listen. Okay, I've slotted it in, and it's there's a Nigerian prince, I think. Yes, something about 100,000. Was it shekels? I don't know.
Pounds, I think. Yeah, it was pounds back in
this is
the old money was pounds.
Amazing currency. Fantastic.
We've been given £100,000.
Yeah, man. And from actual Nigerian royalty, this is so awesome.
How much do you reckon that converts into in Supercenter credits?
Pawel, can you crunch that?
I can crunch anything, but we're still on the ground, man. I'll try. Yeah, that's not much.
Oh well.
But I think we should still pursue it, given the fact that we're on the ground.
I mean, if it's Nigerian, right?
funds.
Nigeria is the only country that still has royalty, so I think we should pursue this.
I'll
Check it out.
I'll reach out.
Yeah, that was a weird letter.
It certainly was.
Dave, do you have a final memory you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Could we maybe play a clip from my review that I finally did of Uncharted 4?
No.
Oh.
That was terrible. Okay, well, I think that rounds up this episode. I hope you have enjoyed listening to us reminisce about all our favourite memories from the past 50 years. What about you guys? Have you enjoyed this?
It's been a trip down memory lane.
My play button is itchy.
Okay, well, we will give out all our internets. If you want to contact us, you can do so using this data blast. But that's not including Twitter and Twitch, which is this data blast. And we are part of the Podnose Network. Euan, is there any news?
Well, obviously, very sadly, George died a few years back. Strangely enough, though, someone is still debiting the Patreon account, and we're not sure who. But other than that, no news.
No news. That's been 46 years of no news. And no news is good news. So, thanks for listening to us. We will be back next week with a video games episode in which we will review Half-Life 3. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
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 Bye.